I was thinking of the difference between our level and what would be a grouping of cosmoses in a living being. Like, what would that birthing be like? Wouldn't we have a focus? Wouldn't there be a focus? And since there's not much focus where we're at right now, it's kind of free to be ourselves and grow into our universe, then we're probably not in a cosmos life form. We're probably being birthed. So we're probably somewhere in the structure of their planet instead of in a life form. And we'd also be in the electrons, our stars, because our observable universe is rotating just like electrons. You could logically deduce that the protons and neutrons that we rotate around, the protons would be solid dirt, which then energy flows through towards the center, creating a dynamo. And then gas, which would be neutrons, would hold more energy in its gas, have a smaller core, which then provides cushion so the protons don't break apart, and it still absorbs energy, creating a dynamo effect, just in a different way, where the proton, it would go straight through it, like electricity going through metal. It would flow straight through it. You would want it to flow right through the proton or planet, where the gas giant would absorb it, and then it would go through it like electricity through the core, which then provides cushion for the entirety of it. So that means we were born in electrons or stars. So our job is to work, move, and build like electrons. Where the beings on the proton and neutron planets that we rotate around, they would be trying to build the solid, so energy goes straight through the center into the main dynamo. And since it's heavily built just like our universe is, our cosmos is, they would probably have an entirely different structure we can't imagine, because we were born in an electron universe. So the proton and neutron cosmos or universe would be a solid or a gas, where we're rotating just like electrons. So we would be in a big electron. So then wouldn't hell and heaven be proton and neutron, and we're in star or electron? Because that solid proton would be hell, because there would be a liquid molten core at the center, and it would just be solid. There would be very little freedom. You would be building solids to try to get more energy to flow through, instead of being emitted outwards. So you would try to use more energy. So that would probably be where the dynamo tower is, because they're trying to use all of the energy that flows through their planet, kind of like our planet. So that's where the big people would be. They would be carrying mass quantities up and down. That would probably be where the main real dynamo tower would be. They're trying to build a solid, have the energy go straight through. Gas giant provides the cushion. We would be in electrons. So the proton needs to be a solid. It needs that solid structure. So those would use what our cosmos knows about solid proton structures, so they would have a specific shape just like our electron cosmos has a specific shape that repeats. So ours is meant to rotate and move in all directions, so it's a rotating sphere. However, the proton would be a structural support that's meant to stay grouped together with the neutrons or gas giants in the clump. So taking that same theory, they would have built the proton as far as possible. And the neutron. Ours is meant to rotate extremely quickly like an electron. So the proton would be stable or stationary and want to absorb mass quantities of energy being emitted by us. They would want to absorb it instead of emit it like we do. So they would have mass. It would be like electric wire, where it has those holes where electrons flow through. So it would be an entire mass where energy just flows straight through, which that entire mass would be a dam or a rotor stator. As the energy flows through, you would want that entire mass spinning. So basically there's a wire point or electrical point going down every point around the sphere. And then energy flows straight down, compresses massively on the core, which then technically makes it absorb more energy through its main north-south connection or point, because it compresses, sucks in more, overfills, and then pours out the other end. So it would be this constant compression. But then they would have built it too. It would be heavily, heavily built just like our electron cosmos. So then the neutron or gas giant one would utilize all of that energy stored in its gas as a cushion. So the proton would want to flow all of that energy down as fast as possible, creating this powerhouse in the center of the core where it compresses and makes all of that energy just flowing straight at one point. But all of that energy would be built up in the neutron or gas giant cloud, which then increases its cushion effect. It's warm. It wants to rise, but those giant protons are compressing and pushing it down. So you need more energy for the proton or neutron or gas giant to push back. So how would that neutron or gas giant be heavily built, just like our universe, our cosmos electron is heavily built? It'd probably be similar to ours, just the other version I was making with the ground one, where everything rolls, but that's using energy. You would want a mass solid where the energy flows through it with no resistance, while then spinning the rotor stators in the particle as it goes through the center, which then you could use to constrict the solid more, which then compresses those flows, compressing more. So as energy flows through it, it spins the rotor stators. As they go faster, the particle that is in the rotor stators, imagine electrons circulating. So you have something bigger than an electron go through the hole, which then pushes the electrons like rotor stators, making them go faster, which makes them constrict all of the particle, pushing the particle through more. But you would want the gas giant or neutron to have more cushion, so you'd want it to absorb mass quantities of heat or energy. So it'd be this mass of rolling storms, because you'd have it rise really quickly to get that cushion, and then that huge proton planet would push it down, which would then push out the other side. So if you have giant storms raging everywhere, when that proton pushes down on the cushion, then all of those storms raging actually fight back, and then they'll actually push that proton back out. So it's not just a cushion that takes it. The storms fight back and push outwards. But then what would the life be? Because just like our cosmos electron has a bunch of life all around it, what would the proton and neutron or planet and gas giant life be like? Because our job is to move around, emit light. Theirs would be to suck in light towards the center. So it would be the opposite of movement. They would stay still like trees and try to calculate, use their brain, and pull in as much particle as possible. While we're electrons, we move and emit light, they would try to stay still and pull in as much as possible. While the gas giant ones would want to move upwards. We technically rotate and try to move around. But the gas giant ones